We now have the last known sighting of Grace at 9:41 p.m. on Saturday 1st December at the City Life Hotel with a male companion. Police have identified this man and he has been spoken to.
You've told a lie.
What do you mean?
It's a big mistruth.
Did you kill Grace Millane?
You're watching Totally True Crime. Grace Emmy Rose Millane was born on the 2nd of December 1996. She was from Wickford in Essex and she had a loving family and many, many friends. Since she was a little girl, she dreamed of travelling the world. She studied at the University of Lincoln, where she'd studied advertising and marketing, and after her graduation, she decided to live out her dream and go backpacking around the world. Grace had been close with her mother, father, and her two brothers, Michael and Declan. She'd uploaded pictures and videos from her travels. Since she began her gap year, she'd gone around South America for 6 weeks, visiting countries including Peru. On the 2nd of December 2018, Grace's family sent her birthday wishes via messages on her phone. It was her 22nd birthday, and she was now travelling around New Zealand, on the opposite side of the world. But technology meant that her family could send her birthday messages, videos and photos, but Grace never saw them. Grace's family became concerned straight away. It was unlike her to not respond. She was good at communicating. Maybe she'd lost her phone or lost connection somewhere. But after not hearing from her for 3 days, her family became very concerned and contacted the police in New Zealand to report her missing. The police then located the hotel that Grace had been staying at, and they confirmed that she'd not gone back to her room on the night of her birthday. One of the main reasons travellers go missing in New Zealand is they get lost in the mountains. Grace had gone into the mountains, a popular beauty spot which is popular with hikers, but they soon realised that Grace had been in Auckland City the night she went missing. So the police started looking through CCTV footage, trying to see if they could get sight of her. And on Saturday the 1st of December, they saw her. They started looking at CCTV from outside Base Backpackers. It's a hostel that Grace was staying in. At 5:43 p.m, CCTV shows her walking out of the hostel and along the street in the rain. She then stops and looks like she's waiting for someone. She then pulls her phone out of her bag, and 2 minutes later, a man walks over to her. He sees her and then pretends to walk away, and then enthusiastically comes back towards her before pulling her in for a hug. They walk off together, going up an escalator and then into a bar. The police need to find out who this man is. They were looking on Grace's social media, and in a stroke of luck, they saw a comment underneath a recent beautiful photo of Grace. It said, "Beautiful, very radiant." This comment was written by an account under the name of Jessie Shane. The pair visited several bars together that night, and around 8:40 p.m, Grace messaged a friend to tell them that her and Jessie click really well, indicating that at this point she was full of hope and promise for their date. The police got in touch with Jessie after seeing his comment on her social media post to see if he was the man in the CCTV footage. He tells the police that he met Grace on Tinder, a popular dating app, and said whilst he couldn't talk at the time, he would happily come to the police station after work. His full name was Jessie Shane Kempson. So to summarise the date, Jessie told the officer that they met outside Sky City. It's an entertainment complex, and he did that because he didn't know if she was real, but she was. When he saw her, he was obviously pleased, and they went to a local bar where CCTV shows them laughing and smiling together, choosing drinks from a menu. Jessie then tells the officer that when they left the bar and split up, that they had discussed potentially meeting again the next day. While this interview was going on, other officers were recovering some of Grace's belongings from the hotel she'd been staying at. By now, the news of her disappearance was spread all across New Zealand. An officer told the press that there was no evidence of foul play, though they were keeping an open mind. Her father, David, made his way to New Zealand. He was distraught. He took part in a press conference shortly after he arrived.
Thank you for coming today. As you know, Grace has been missing for several days. We last had contact with her on Saturday the 1st of December, and as a family we've been extremely concerned for her welfare. Grace is a lovely, outgoing, fun-loving, family-orientated daughter. Grace has never been out of contact for this amount of time. She's usually in daily contact with either her mother, myself, her two brothers, members of the family on social media. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to appeal to anybody who has seen, spoken to or come into contact with Grace over the last few days, and to come forward with any detail, no matter how small, and contact the investigation team.
But then Detective Inspector Scott Beard got onto the microphone and he gave the public and the press some more information. There was a last sighting of Grace in the hotel where Jessie had been staying.
We now have the last known sighting of Grace at 9:41 p.m. on Saturday 1st of December at the City Life Hotel with a male companion. Police have identified this man and he has been spoken to. Through our investigations, we have also identified a location of interest, an apartment in the City Life Hotel in Queen Street. We are conducting a scene examination at this address. I understand there will be lots of questions about what we are doing and why we're doing it and exactly why we're there. However, this is an ongoing investigation and I'm not at liberty to discuss the details that some I don't have at the moment.
So the police had caught Jessie out in a lie. They didn't part ways with a hug and a kiss on the cheek. Jessie had taken Grace to his hotel. She was spotted with him on the City Life Hotel's CCTV. He'd been living in this hotel in Auckland for a few months, and the police were now getting increasingly more suspicious. Locals in New Zealand were out looking for Grace. The community were doing what they could, waiting with bated breath, hoping that she would be found alive. But the police had noticed another flaw in Jessie's version of events in the hours after Grace went missing. In his interview, Jessie had told the police that he had woken up at 10 a.m. the next morning, but the police force's CCTV investigators had caught him in the hotel's lift at 8:14 a.m. the next day, wheeling a suitcase. They confirm it's him via his arm tattoo. Jessie says that he's adamant that he woke up at 10 a.m. The officer shows him the CCTV and the pair sit in silence for a few minutes before Jessie asks the officer if he wants to ask him something.
Picture. The picture is in your hotel lift.
Yeah.
Okay, that's on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:14.
Okay. I'm still sure it was 10 o'clock. I'm still sure of it. And there's something you want to ask?
You were pretty specific
Yep.
about waking up,
Yep.
having been in a drunken stupor
Mhm.
at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
That's you walking in with a suitcase at 8:14.
Yep.
Yeah, explain that.
I might have got the times wrong, but if you're assuming that I was using that suitcase for something, I've still got that suitcase in my room.
You haven't told the truth about being completely drunk on Saturday night.
What do you mean?
Let me be
That's the
perfectly
next-
clear.
I know that.
Police officers have watched this video. You're not blind drunk in this picture, in this footage. Do
Okay.
you understand?
Yep.
So how do you explain that?
I get over it quickly.
Okay. Where had you been that night?
Oh, I told you.
Okay. No, that's not the case. Right.
You've told a lie.
What do you mean?
It's a big mistruth.
On the 8th of December, the police officially announced that they were treating this case as a suspected murder. So what had changed? Forensic evidence inside Jesse's flat and the CCTV footage not lining up with his version of events meant the police knew he was lying, and he was taken in for more questioning. And this time, he decided to give police a different version of events.
She started talking to me about 50 Shades of Grey, which is a sex fantasy movie that's out. We started having sex. At first it was just normal. It was very placid. And then she asked me if we could get into bondage, having, I guess, more violent sex. We ended up on the floor, and we kept going on the floor, and then she told me to hold her throat, and then at that point we'd finished, so I went into the shower, and then all I remember is falling asleep in the shower. I was in shock. I didn't know what to do. I went downstairs and I was just, I don't know, I was all over the place. I didn't believe what had happened. I was just terrified and scared.
You come out of the shower.
Yep.
The light's been on in the shower.
Yep.
You put a towel around you.
Yep.
You've turned the light off, and
Yep.
then you've returned to your bed and you've gone to sleep in your bed.
Yep.
And at that point, when you exit the shower, you don't look around, but your assumption from the silence.
I thought that she had gone. I thought she had left.
But she hadn't left. Grace's lifeless body was in his apartment. Jesse was claiming that Grace had died after they had sex, but the police weren't buying it. Why wouldn't he call the emergency services? If she'd died in a sex game gone wrong, surely he would have known then. She wouldn't have just died moments later. Why has he not tried to help her? And why does his mobile phone have Google searches on it, asking the search engine how to dispose of a body? And why, on his phone, were there 7 photos of Grace's corpse? And then a search for pornography. The evidence was now pointing to something much more sinister than his claims of a sex game gone wrong. Jesse then went to a shopping centre and brought a suitcase, which he put Grace into. Jesse was arrested at this point and asked by police if he would take them to Grace's body. On the 9th of December, her body was found around 4 p.m. in an area called the Waitakere Ranges, 12 miles from central Auckland. A suitcase buried in a remote location in a shallow grave. Jesse took the police to the location. Looking at the area where her body was found, it would have been incredibly difficult to locate it in such a vast area. This was the news that nobody wanted, and the people of New Zealand came together to pay their respects.
Been backpacker myself, coming from the UK. I just knew that people wanted to do something, wasn't sure what they could do, so I just wanted to do it so they could be part of it.
Former New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern offered an emotional apology to Grace and her family, saying she should have been safe in their country.
Look, today I would like to start with a comment on the murder of Grace Millane, having received a number of media queries about this tragedy. Firstly, I cannot imagine the grief of her family and what they will be experiencing and feeling right now. And my thoughts and prayers are with her father, David, who is in the country, her mother, Gillian, who cannot be here, and her wider family, friends, and loved ones. You know, from the Kiwis I have spoken to, there is this overwhelming sense of hurt and shame that this has happened in our country, a place that prides itself on our hospitality, on our manaakitanga, especially to those who are visiting our shores. And so, on behalf of New Zealand, I want to apologise to Grace's family. Your daughter should have been safe here, and she wasn't, and I'm sorry for that. I've advised the family through the police that if there is anything we can do to assist, we are here to help with that.
As Grace's friends and family struggled to come to terms with such an incredible loss, the police were determined to get justice for her. A post-mortem was carried out on the 10th of December. Pathologist Simon Stables said he could conclusively state that Grace had died from manual pressure applied to her neck. A further search of Jessie's apartment found smears of Grace's blood in it. Bloody footprints were found after luminal tests were carried out on and under the carpet, and drops of blood were also found on a small white fridge in his apartment hotel. There was significant evidence that showed a clean-up operation had been undertaken in an attempt to hide the forensic evidence, likely to be done by Jessie. Jessie had then hired a car, put the suitcase with Grace's body in it, and then did something incredibly shocking. Unbelievably, Jessie went back on Tinder and met up with another girl. The girl told the police that Jessie had told her he'd been out shopping that day, trying to find a large bag, because he claimed he taught sports to children and needed something for the equipment. But really, he needed it to transport the body of a woman who had been in the same position as she was just hours earlier, on a date with a monster. The woman also told police that Jessie had talked about murder with friends of his who were policemen, and that he heard sniffer dogs can't detect a body if they're more than 5 feet underground. She told him that she had sat through a murder trial before. He then said to her that it only takes one wrong move for a man to do something and get locked away for life. The woman said she felt uneasy and she left, and when she realised that he was due to walk in the same direction as her, she pretended to go elsewhere, so they walked in separate directions. All this time, Grace's body was still in his hotel room. He then went to a pharmacy where he speaks to the pharmacist about a rash he has on his hands, and this was cited as being a likely reaction from all the cleaning products he had used trying to hide the forensic evidence. At 9:31 p.m. on the 2nd of December, Grace's birthday, whilst they were continuing to try to reach her, he wheeled her out of the hotel in a suitcase. The calm manner in which Jessie loads up a luggage trolley and leaves the building is chilling and sickening. The following morning, Monday the 3rd of December, Jessie goes to a hardware shop and buys a shovel and some bolts, even though he doesn't need them. He then buries Grace's body, dumps his shoes because they're covered in mud, gets his clothes dry cleaned, and then goes out to buy another suitcase. Remember in his interview when he said he had the suitcase in his room and that the police could go and see it? Well, this is why he brought a second one. He washes down the car, he dumps the shovel, and puts a bag of things in a local park's bin. A few days later, he goes out to Mission Bay with a bag early in the morning. The police suspect that this is where Jessie dumps Grace's phone, a phone that they never found. So what was his motive here? Had Jessie intended to kill Grace? The police started to build an image of Jessie who he was and what he liked. Jesse had been raised by his father and grandfather after his mother left the family home when he was just 9 years old. She remarried and moved overseas, and Jesse continued to live in Wellington. In his 20s, he moved to Sydney, Australia, where he stayed for 3 years. He became estranged from his family and had a few run-ins with the law for drink driving and for disorderly behaviour. He did ad hoc work in bars, as well as some building work. He used dating apps frequently to meet women. The day before he met Grace, he had been fired from his call centre job for fraudulent activity. He'd been making false calls, calling his own number more than 100 times. After looking into Jesse's recent dating history, 3 women came forward and told the police how he liked rough sex and S&M. What was most disturbing was another British backpacker told the police that earlier in 2018 she'd met Jesse on a date after connecting with him on Tinder. She told the police that he raped her after she refused to have sex with him, and she'd been so frightened that she hadn't reported the attack. But when she saw him on the news, she knew she had to go to the police and report the crime. Jesse's ex-girlfriend also came forward and said that he'd been abusive through their relationship. She told the police that she had suffered serious assaults and sexual violence at his hands. She said he'd also stolen $10,000 from her, held a knife to her, and made her perform sexual acts against her will. Jesse Shane Kempson was put on trial in November 2019. He pled not guilty to murder. At the trial, the prosecution revealed to the jury that Jesse had Google searches relating to how to dispose of bodies, as well as searches for rough and violent pornography. His defence team argued that they had had consensual sex and that her injuries were down to misadventure, not murder. They said that the fact she had alcohol in her system and no defensive wounds meant that this supported their case. But the coroner said Grace's death was only down to the manual pressure on her neck, nothing else. Jesse is a heavy-set man, and Grace wouldn't have stood a chance against him physically. The trial lasted 3 weeks, and Jesse Kempson was found guilty of murder by a jury of 7 women and 5 men, many who cried during the verdict being delivered. Grace's father, David, said this outside of court after the sentence was handed down.
You'll have to forgive me because I'm not very good at this. The verdict of murder today will be welcomed by every member of the Millane family and friends of Grace. It will not reduce the pain, the suffering that we've had to endure for over the past year. Grace was taken away from us in the most brutal fashion a year ago, and our lives have been, and family have been ripped apart. This will be with us for the rest of our lives. Grace was a beautiful, talented, loving daughter. Grace was our sunshine, and she will be missed forever.
In addition to the charges relating to Grace, he was also convicted of the assault and sexual violence against his ex-girlfriend and the rape of the other British backpacker. For these, he received an additional 11 years in prison to run concurrently with his sentence.